everyone, welcome here or welcome back. My name is Sarah and today you are joining me for my monthly reading wrap-up for the month of August. August was quite a varied month in terms of what I was reading and how much I enjoyed it, and you will see that as we go through the books today. For those of you that are unfamiliar with the format that I choose for these videos, I record my reviews of the books I've read as I read them throughout the month. So without further ado, let's check in with past Sarah to see what she thought of the books this month, and I will catch up with you at the end of the video. Hiya! My first book of August is The Mercies by Kieran Millward Hargrave, and what a start to the month. This is a historical fiction set on the remote Norwegian island of Vardø in the 1600s. A horrendous storm suddenly occurs whilst all the men of their village are out fishing, and this results in a very sudden and disastrous accident in which all the men of the village or island of Vardø are killed, and the women are left to fend for themselves. Months later, a commissioner by the name of Absalom Cornet and his wife Ursula arrive at the island to bring the women to order and to enforce godly ways, no matter the cost. We follow two women throughout the book, the first being Maren, who is a local young woman who has lost her brother and her father, and the second that we follow is Ursula, the wife of the commissioner. She has been married off very suddenly and hauled away from a very sheltered and comfortable life in Bergen. This is a beautifully crafted but very dark and dangerous feeling story. Themes of friendship, love and hope are at the heart of this chilling and completely compelling book of witch trials, murders, endurance and oppression of women and indigenous peoples, and it is all set against the landscape of a brutal, remote, very isolated, freezing cold island. I read The Dance Tree by this author earlier in the year, adored it. There is that same palpable tension throughout the entire book from beginning to end, and there is something about the way that Kieran Millward Hargrave writes about the setting that just is so visceral. In The Dance Tree it was the heat, and here it is the cold. It just leaps off the page, it seeps into you, it's outstanding. I don't know what Kieran Millward Hargrave is doing, but I like it. This was fantastic and dark and wonderful, and it's 5 stars from me. Next is The Instant by Amy Liptrot. This is an autobiographical book about Amy's decision to leave the Scottish island of Orkney and travel to Berlin on a one-way flight in search of new experiences, excitement and also love. She explores the urban landscape, seeking out the city wildlife of raccoons, goshawks and crows, as well as the landscape of the online dating world. This book is as much about an obsessive love affair as it is about self-discovery, and is set against elements of the natural world like moon cycles, the flight patterns of birds and Neolithic stonework. This was a very open and frank and lyrical memoir. To be fully transparent, she does also dip in at times to her experiences as an alcoholic, as well as mentioning drug use and sexual encounters, so it definitely does contain more adult themes. Won't necessarily be appropriate for all age groups, or some people might find those topics triggering, so that's just your warning here. Overall, it wasn't my favourite book, but it wasn't bad by any means. It was enjoyable and elements of it certainly resonated with me, and it was something that was engaging to listen to on my walks to work. I should mention maybe that I listened to this as an audiobook, but it's not really something that I think is going to stick with me long term. That's completely personal. I feel like it just doesn't quite fit my particular niche for these sorts of books. It was good, it was solid, but just not quite the right fit for me. I have 2 books to quickly review or give a once over for you. So the first one is the nicest of the 2. This is The Joy Journal for Grown-Ups by Laura Brand. This is a compilation of 50 craft ideas, and it's just a really lovely book. It has all of the activities in illustration formats, so there aren't really any photographs of the finished crafts, but it's just a really lovely book to flick through. I really like at the beginning of each chapter she has an invitation to, and so some of them are to the self, to nature, to give, to gather, and they just have a really lovely, comforting, warming vibe, for lack of a better word. It's definitely one that you would sort of flick through. It's very quick, but lovely to go back. Unfortunately, this is one that was borrowed from the library, but I think I'll be taking pictures or potentially scanning in different ideas so I can refer back to this. Not something that's completely groundbreaking, but I just had a nice time. The cover is gorgeous and the inside is also lovely, so would make a gorgeous gift for somebody if they're really interested in craft. Really liked it. The second book, however, less thrilled about. This was a book that I really wanted to love because it was given to me as a gift, and when somebody picks a book out for you, you really do want to be able to say that you loved it. It doesn't always work that way. When I first saw the book, I was a bit apprehensive because there are elements of it that I just, maybe not avoid, but I don't gravitate towards naturally when I'm looking for a book to read. However, there is some crossover. I love historical fiction. I love a detective sort of mystery aspect threaded through a story, and so there were elements of this that I was excited to read, and I was really willing to go into this and have my mind changed. I really wanted to be open-minded. However, Only Time Will Tell by Jeffrey Archer, not great. And I was flummoxed by this because when I looked up the reviews, they are all so positive, and after reading this, clearly I'm not the target audience because I just did not get on with this book. I found it really boring, quite repetitive at times. The actual subject matter could have been delivered, I feel, in a way that was more engaging. I found it a slog, to be perfectly honest. You might really like this book. It might be right up your street, and I don't want to give a super biased overview of the book. So, this is the first book in a series of, I believe, 7 called The Clifton Chronicles by Jeffrey Archer. We follow Harry Clifton. This book starts when he is a very young boy, and he believes that his father is a war hero called Arthur Clifton, but things are maybe not as they seem. At the beginning of the novel, it is set against the end of the First World War, and at the end of the book, there is the outbreak of the Second World War. So it's very much that time period. His father, or so-called father, and his uncle are dockers in Bristol, but he supposedly has this voice of an angel, and that lands him a scholarship at a very prestigious private school, which then sends him on a completely different trajectory of his life. The thing that I found really interesting about the book is that I don't really know why everybody is willing to make sacrifices and is willing to go above and beyond when they don't know this kid. It's giving Rory Gilmore, but without the fun and without the love. I don't know whether I felt so disappointed by this because I've recently read so many incredible historical fictions set in time periods that I am much more engaged with, and this perhaps just felt a bit more of a letdown because of that. It wasn't all bad, but it just felt like it was just quite repetitive in finding out the same information from different characters' viewpoints. To me, a lot of the things that were supposed to be built up to were quite guessable. Even the ending, which is supposed to be a big kind of ooh and a big cliffhanger, it just felt really predictable, and clearly I'm in the minority here when I'm reading other people's reviews about this, but it just didn't land for me, alas. On to the next. Next on my completed reading list for this month was The Botanist's Daughter by Katie Nunn. This is a lovely story about 2 women botanists and the story that connects them. It utilises a dual timeline, the first following Anna in our present day timeline, who lives in Sydney, Australia. She's just lost her grandmother and has inherited her grandmother's house, and as she's getting some work done, they come across this old kind of tin metal box which is really intricately detailed and embossed, and an accompanying old diary, and the tin is embossed with the letter E. We then meet our second lead, Elizabeth, who is living in Cornwall, England in 1886. Her father, a renowned botanist, has just passed away, and as a final request, he has secretly entrusted her to go on this mission or this quest to discover a previously unseen, undocumented, but highly sought after and notably incredibly dangerous variety of flower. She then goes on this eye-opening adventure to South America where of course she discovers lots about herself. There might be some romance here, all while on this quest for this incredibly rare flower. The book melds these two storylines together really nicely. There's a lot of echoing in each storyline from one to the other throughout, and we go on this journey of uncovering the mystery of the flower, but also of how these two women's lives connect. I really enjoyed this book. I was hoping for, and I found, a fairly low stakes mystery. If you saw my reading vlog, you'll know that I was craving something fun and cottagecore for the end of the summertime, and I found that here. It had some mystery, some romance, some danger, some adventure, lots of plants, and was just a fun read overall. It was fun. I also have Emily of New Moon to talk about, which is a piece of children's literature by L.M. Montgomery, who also wrote Anne of Green Gables. If you enjoyed Anne of Green Gables, or you liked watching Anne with an E, then you will like this. It's set in Prince Edward Island, Canada, and we follow Emily Starr, who after losing her father at the beginning of the book is now an orphan. She's taken in and goes to live with her mother's side of the family, and this is just a book all about the trials and tribulations of growing up and finding friendship and family, and it's just very cozy and endearing and heartwarming, and I loved every second of it. This is a really nice one to read, especially as we are looking towards autumn. It's not set in autumn really, it's kind of set throughout the year, so it's got a little bit from every season, but it's just so cozy and I really enjoyed this. It's just lovely. The last book that I have to talk about for this month is Dear Dolly by Dolly Alderton. This is quite a fun book purely because it is a non-fiction, but it is basically just Dolly Alderton's column as an agony aunt written in a book format. I listened to this as an audiobook. I was purely listening to this and wanting to listen to this because I was one of those people that would skip to the agony aunt section of the magazine back in the day. And you know what? I missed it. I liked it. I like to see what's going on in other people's lives. I'm nosy, I'll admit it. She has such a insightful and humorous way of looking at people's issues and problems, but she also clearly has such a big heart. There is so much kindness and thoughtfulness in her responses, and it's just a nice fun time, even when some of these issues that people have written in about are kind of harrowing and kind of just like, you know what, it makes you realise how lucky you are. So if nothing else, yes, I was being nosy wanting to know what other people were stressed about, but two, I think it's helped me practice gratitude, so I think that makes it okay. If you like reading the agony aunt sections of newspapers and magazines, then you'll probably like it. If that sounds like your cup of tea, give it a go. Well folks, you made it to the end. That's all the books I have to share with you today, and all the books therefore that I read in August. Thank you so much for being here today. I really don't want to be that person, but if you did like the video, then consider giving it a little like down below, and if you'd like to see more content from me in the future, then there should be a subscribe button coming up any second now. I would love to see you here again. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day or night wherever you are. Sending you love, take care, and I will see you soon.